Hi kids! This week we are going to do a project based on the paintings of somebody called Gustav Klimt. And Klimt is particularly famous for doing very elaborate paintings of women, mainly women, and I'm going to show you some of those portraits now. I really love Klimt's portraits, but I'm even more interested in his paintings of nature, such as this apple tree with some rose bushes underneath. And you can see that he has used thousands of tiny flecks of paint to represent the leaves. Here's another similar painting. And this is a painting of a birch forest, and again he's used thousands of tiny dabs of paint to represent the leaves on the forest floor. And this painting here is the one that we are going to be using to base our own painting on. Here's a closer look at it. Now, of course, it would take a very, very long time to create a painting like this with so many tiny dabs of colour. But we are going to use a different technique to achieve a similar effect. And we are also going to be using a method known as masking, where you cover one part of the painting so that paint doesn't go on it. The first thing we are going to do is get ready to do some painting, and this could be a particularly messy task, so you need to make sure that you have plenty of newspaper. Okay, so my A4 paper is ready, and the first thing I'm going to do is mix a grey colour with a little bit of blue in it. And if we look at Klimt's birch trees, we can see that that is the colour he has used, grey with some blue in it. So notice, kids, that I'm not using a huge amount of paint when I mix my colours. In class, a lot of you take so much paint that we have to throw lots and lots of it away at the end of a class. You don't need to start with a huge amount of paint. You can always mix more later. And when your colour is ready, I want you to just paint some stripes down the page. Don't worry what they look like or where they are. The only thing is that I would like you to leave some white space between them. I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I'm going to talk more about masking, and that is usually done with special tape, masking tape, or fluid that can be removed easily from a painting. Now, in my experience, even this special masking tape is a little bit too sticky, and certainly something like sellotape will tear the paper if you try to pull it off. And there's a way to solve this situation. With sellotape, you should just stick it onto a shirt or some trousers, stick it down, and then peel it off. And once you have done that, you can stick the tape to a painting and then peel it off easily afterwards. And that is what I would now like you to do, to prepare some strips of sellotape that you have stuck to a shirt. You can see all the hairs in there, and then stick them onto a sheet of paper. Okay, so let's have a closer look at this non-sticky sellotape and what I would like you to do with it. When you have stuck it to the paper and just test it to make sure that it does come off easily, I would like you to leave some of the strips the same size, but cut others so that they are thinner, and that will make the strips look more like the trees themselves. So if I just do this now, I will keep this strip the same size, but this one here I will cut through the middle. It doesn't matter if the line isn't completely straight because the trees themselves aren't completely straight. With this one, I might decide to try to cut it into 3 parts. And when you have cut your strips, it's a good idea to take a permanent marker or a ball pen if you haven't got a permanent marker, and then just draw a line down them. Again, the line doesn't have to be straight. That is so that you can recognize where the strips are when you stick them to the painting itself. Okay, so when your strips are ready, you need to stick them onto the painting, and you should be able to just peel them off the backing paper quite easily and stick them so that they are at the top of the picture, ideally with a little bit over the side, because that will make it easier to find them and take them off later. It's also a good idea to vary the length of the trees because they are not all the same height, and that might mean cutting one of the strips to make it a little bit shorter. Or adding a little bit of sellotape to an existing tree to make it longer. Okay, that certainly looks like a confusing mess at the moment, but we need to paint further. The next thing to do is to mix a light blue color, and this is the sky in the background. As you can see, there's not much of it, so I would say that you need to paint about 5 centimeters from the top and just paint across like so. What is now happening, of course, is that the paint won't go where you have added the sellotape. Those areas are masked. And you will now want to clean your palette and your brush, because we are now going to mix an orangey brown colour, and this is for the foreground where the leaves are. The colour itself doesn't matter too much. We will be adding more colours very soon, but it should be something similar to one of the colours you see in Klimt's painting. And just paint that so that it ends just under the sky. And now we come to the part where we are going to try to paint all of this foliage, all of the fallen leaves. And this really can get messy, so make sure that you have plenty of newspaper. We are also going to mask the top of our painting just with a strip of newspaper, just to protect the blue area. And now I would like you to use a short brush, a short haired brush if you have got one, and then mix some autumn colours. And then you are going to flick these colours onto your painting like so. A short-haired brush is perfect, and you can simply flick the brush to spread the colour on the paper. Another thing you could do is to tap the side of the brush, and that will also splat colour on the paper. Slightly bigger dots here, as you can see. Another thing you can do is to just flick the brush like so. The dots tend to be a bit bigger, and you have to be careful that you don't flick it everywhere. Another tool you can use is an old toothbrush, and this works really well, but the size of the dots tend to be a lot finer. As you can see, it's more like a spray. It's a good technique, but for our painting, probably not what we want. For this to look really good, you need to keep flicking for quite a while so that you've got lots and lots of dots on the page. And remember to use different kinds of colour. As you can see, I have been quite busy and I have added yet more dots of colour to the painting. And as I said before, in order to make this painting, you will need to do the same. You need lots and lots and lots of these different colours. But what we are going to do now is a little bit more masking. And first, I would like you to mix a darker colour, a brown, but again, you might want a little bit of red or orange in that brown to make it warmer. And then I want you to tear a piece of paper in half. It doesn't matter how you do that. It doesn't matter if the line is wiggly or not. It's better if it is. And then I want you to just position that paper on top of your painting to create a kind of V shape, like so. And then flick your paint as you have done before. What we are creating here is an area of shadow on the painting, which hopefully will make it look a little bit more realistic. Let's see. Aha. I'm going to repeat that towards the top here. We're almost at the point where we can lift our tree masks, but first I would like you to mix grey coloured paint, and you could also add a little bit of the brown you have just used if you have still got it. And if you can use a much finer brush for this step. And then I would like you to just paint some short lines into the background, or into the sky, in fact. And these will look like the branches or the tops of the trees that you can see in the painting here. I think that's enough. And now we are going to take off our masks and see what we have got. That works pretty well. So I've managed to pull off all the tape and I'm pleased with the effect. The paint has run underneath the tape in some places where it didn't stick properly, but that's fine, it doesn't matter because the trees do have texture. As a final step, if you use some of the grey colour that you mixed before, you can just start to add little marks of colour into the trees. there is grey underneath already, which we painted right at the start, but birch trees also have very characteristic little splodges of black on their bark, and you can paint some of those in now. And that is your Klimt birch forest, more or less ready. One other thing you might like to do, just to make it look a little bit more like Klimt's original, is to add a grey or grey-blue colour, just a wash. But I would certainly still leave some white areas, because that will make them look more like birch trees. And that is how masking works. It lets us separate areas of painting from others to give us some really interesting effects. So try it with your own artworks from now on.